Hello friends, I am Nisha Sharma, Associate Professor, Department of English, Government College, Khetri. The topic under discussion today is critical appraisal of Robert Browning's poem, My Last Touches. In our previous lectures, we have discussed the character sketches of Duke and Duchess, as well as we have done a textual analysis of My Last Touches. And this particular lecture would sum up the whole poem. Now, let's begin. Robert Browning was an English poet and playwright whose mastery of the dramatic monologue made him one of the foremost Victorian poets. His poems are known for their irony, characterization, dark humor, social commentary, historical settings, and challenging vocabulary and syntax. Browning's early career began promisingly but collapsed. The long poems Pauline and Paracelsus received some acclaim, but in 1840, the difficult Sordello, which was seen as willfully obscure, brought his poetry into disrepute. His reputation took more than a decade to recover, during which time he moved away from the Shelleyan form of his early period and developed a more personal style. In 1846, Browning married the older poet Elizabeth Barrett and went to live in Italy. By the time of her death in 1861, he had published the crucial select collection Men and Women, the collection Dramatis Personas, and the book-length epic poem The Ring and the Book followed, and made him a leading British poet. He continued to write prolifically, but his reputation today rests largely on the poetry he wrote in his middle period. When Browning died in 1889, he was regarded as a sage and philosopher poet who, through his writing, had made contributions to Victorian social and political discourse. Unusually for a poet, science societies for the study of his work were founded while he was still alive. Such Browning societies remained common in Britain and the United States until the early 20th century. Now, the head is Browning as a writer of dramatic monologue. A dramatic monologue is dramatic discourse, usually employing the following elements: a fiction speaker, an implied audience, a symbolic setting, dramatic gestures, and emphasis on a speaker's subjectivity. Dramatic monologues provide interesting snapshots of the speakers and their personalities. Robert Browning is often considered the master of the form of the dramatic monologue, if not the first to inaugurate, to perfect this poetic form. In Browning's dramatic monologues, the speakers lay bare his inner thoughts and feelings. That is why they are regarded as the soul studies. Browning admits the soul is the stage, moods and thoughts are characters. He emphasizes, my stress lay on the incidents in the development of a soul, little else is worth study. Well known for his expertise of dramatic monologue, Browning made a special feature of it in his work. The dramatic monologue verse form allowed Browning to explore and probe the minds of specific characters. This particular format allowed Browning to maintain a great distance between himself and his creations. By channeling the voice of a character, Browning could expose evil without actually being evil himself. His character served as persona that let him adopt different traits and tell stories. Browning's terrific monologues worked as a tool to examine issues of the day that may not have been examined otherwise, particularly domestic abuse and religious hypocrisy. Browning has popularized dramatic monologue, influencing Yeats, Ezra Pound, T.S. Eliot, and many other British poets of the next generation. The typical speaker of a Browning monologue is aggressive, often threatening, nearly always superior intellectually or socially to the listener, a typically eloquent rhetorician who has complete control over what he speaks and which is capable of lying. The speaker is often attempting to use his words to alter radically his listener's perception. One of the best illustrations of Browning's psychological analysis can be seen in the depiction of the Duke in My Last Touches. The combination of villain and aesthete in the Duke creates an especially strong tension, and Browning exploits the combination to the fullest. The poem has a historical setting. The Duke is supposed to be Alfonso II, the fifth Duke of Ferrara, and the Duchess is regarded as Lucrezia de Medici. My Last Touches is one of Browning's finest dramatic monologues. It is barely 56 lines long. The poem proves that Browning is a matchless master of this kind of poetry. The poem also reveals the poet's deep understanding of human character and capacity to present it in the most dramatic and impressive manner. As in the other monologues, here also the chief character is the speaker of the monologue. Here there is only one listener who does not speak anything at all. The central character of our poem is an Italian nobleman who intends to marry the daughter of a rich count, whose agent is the silent listener. As his speech goes on, we come to understand the character and outlook of the man. As he narrates his relationship with his wife, point by point, our understanding of him gets widened. Browning is a master of delineating the complex inner life of man. Here we find the Duke talking about his last touches, but in fact, he speaks more about himself. Usually, what Browning does in his dramatic monologue is to bring the speaker before us at a crucial moment when he is most likely to reveal his character. In My Last Touches, the apt moment is when the Count's agent has come to conclude the negotiations regarding the proposal of a union between the Count's daughter and the Duke. It is quite natural that the Duke would look back into the past and think about his first wife and his relationship with her. The snobbish Duke must have taken the agent around the house, and on reaching the art gallery, he must have shown the portrait of his last touches. Explaining to the agent the reason behind the depth of the passion and earnest glance on the face of the portrait, the Duke briefly reveals the character of his former wife, when in the process lays bare his own egotism, possessiveness, and cruelty. The dramatic situation and the presence of a listener is a very subtly and cleverly suggested by the occasional direct address made by the Duke to the Count's agent. Indirectly, we see his curiosity to take a look at the curtained portrait and then his desire to know how such an expression of intense joy happened on the face of the portrait. This gives occasion to the Duke to describe his former wife's character and the way in which he treated her. His cruelty, his egotism, his jealousy minus love are all revealed to us. Finally, there is a suggestion that the agent stood back as they begin to descend the step so that the Duke may proceed. However, the Duke invites the agent to walk abreast, and as they step down, he points to a bronze statue of Neptune, remarking that it is a rare piece. The poem is thus a very good example of a dramatic monologue. It is full of action, not merely a long soliloquy delivered by a character. It is dramatic, however small the compass may be, and it projects before us a vivid picture of all the emotion natural to a character. The poem has an abrupt beginning and abrupt ending. At this exact point, the poem starts. That's my last duchess painted on the wall. The abrupt opening of this dramatic monologue is traditional. He follows the tradition of keeping secret in the beginning who the speaker is and whom he is speaking to. The secrets are revealed gradually in the poem. From this traditionally abrupt beginning, the poet has the advantage of creating suspense, which is the essence of a dramatic beginning. There are many dramatic turns in the poem. Browning does not only begin the poem dramatically, but also manages several dramatic turns in the development of the poem. The Duke draws back the curtains on his especially prized possession, the portrait of the first wife, and invites the envoy to sit down to look at it. In the manner of a connoisseur, he invites the envoy to contemplate the beauty of the painting, especially the earnest glance and spot of joy. He focuses on Frau Pandolf's skill in painting and exquisite facial expression. At this point, a dramatic change takes place. An overpowering annoyance working within his mind leads him to create a very different image of the actual lady in the lovely portrait. He suggests that he suffered from Duchess' negligence to his social dignity. He says that it is beyond his capacity to explain the type of her character. She had the habit of smiling. How shall I say? The chilling is inherent in the structure of the poem. As the irony is decoded, the Duke and the Duchess appear just the opposite to what the Duke poses to reveal about himself and his wife. Now we come to language. The language of the poem is heroic couplet. In other words, each line is a pentameter line and each pair of these lines rhyme together. The poem is rich in its variety of tones. In the beginning, the poet maintains a calm, complacent tone. Then it changes into a tone of annoyance. Finally, the tone becomes confidently cruel. Characterization. Browning's poems are studies of the character. They are studies of the other men. The poet stands apart and gives his characters a platform and let them speak to us. And as they speak, they unfold their character. It was for this purpose that Browning invented a new genre of poetry known as dramatic monologue or dramatic lyric. It has a few well-defined characteristics. It is a compromise between the drama, the soliloquy, and the lyric. The author keeps himself entirely in the background, and so it is essentially dramatic. As only one character speaks, it is a monologue. The monologue is essentially a lyrical outpouring or a subjective self-examination. The poem My Last Duchess is quite popular. It is a very famous dramatic monologue of Duke about a heinous act of killing his former wife. It was first published in Browning's Dramatic Lyrics in 1842. The poem comprises the sentiment of the speaker whose mistress could not survive his severity. It also provides an insight of the psychological state of the speaker. However, its popularity lies in the presentation of a realistic picture of the Victorian era. The poem can be studied, we can study the poem as a representative of jealousy. The poem presents a monologue of a duke who is telling about the demise of his last duchess. At the outset, he displays the painting of his late wife and talks about her character traits. First, he acknowledges the mastery of the painter for painting a lifelike picture of his mistress, then accuses his mistress of having a heart that was too soon made glad and too easily impressed. He did not like her soft, impartial, and polite manners. Therefore, he blames her for being so gentle and kind. Although her death is suspicious, the Duke gets away with her murder on account of his status and power. Thus, the poem exhibits the vicious, psychotic, and controlling mind of the Duke who hated his wife due to her positive nature. Now we come to the themes. Jealousy, hatred, and power are the major themes of this poem. Browning has presented the character of a duke who wants to rule his woman with an iron fist. He talks about his late wife and details the reasons why he did not like her. He could not tolerate the idea that his wife was easily attracted towards the strangers and responded them happily. It is due to this behavior his wife is not alive. That is why he seems to be a psychopath, jealous, and self centered man who not only wishes to control his kingdom but also wants to govern the lives of his near and dear ones. Literary devices are tools the writers use to create meanings in their texts to enhance the poems or stories and connect the readers with the real message of the text. The analysis of some of the literary devices used in this poem is like assonance. Assonance is the repetition of vowel sounds in the same line, such as the sound of O in her wits to your, forsooth, and made excuses, and the sound of I and O in of mine for dowry will be disallowed. Symbolism. Symbolism is using symbols to signify ideas and qualities, giving them symbolic meaning different from literal meanings. The painting of the Duke's last touches symbolizes how he objectifies women as property or possessions. White mule symbolizes her innocence and purity. Taming a seahorse is a symbol of Duke taming his wife. Enjambment. Enjambment refers to the continuation of a sentence without the pause beyond the end of a line, couplet, or stanza, such as the Count your master's non-munificence is ample warrant that no just pretence of mine for dowry will be disallowed. Consonance. Consonance is the repetition of consonant sounds in the same line, such as the sound of T in together town, sir, notice Neptune, though, and the sound of N in the Count your master's non-munificence. Irony. Irony is a figure of speech in which words are used in such a way that their intended meaning is different from the actual meaning of the words. The title is ironic because the dead mistress is not his last lady and he is going to marry again. Simile. Simile is a device used to compare something with something else to make the meanings clear. There is only one simile used in this poem. For example, that's my last duchess painted on the wall, looking as if she were alive. Hyperbole. Hyperbole is a device used to exaggerate a statement for the sake of emphasis. The poet has used hyperbole in the line 24. She looked on and her looks went everywhere. Alliteration. Alliteration is the repetition of consonant sounds in the same line, such as the sound of D in the dropping of the daylight in the west and the sound of S in then all smiles stop together. There she stands. Euphemism. A euphemism is a polite expression used in place of words or phrases that might otherwise be considered harsh or unpleasant. For example, much the same smile, this grew, I gave commands, then all smiles stopped together. There she stands. Besides the literary devices, the poet has used some poetic devices also. Poetic and literary devices are the same, but a few are used only in poetry. And here is the analysis of some of the poetic devices used in the poem. First is stanza. Stanza is a poetic form of some lines. There is one long stanza in the poem having 56 lines in it. Iambic pentameter. It is a type of meter having 5 iambs per line. The poem follows iambic pentameter such as looking as if she were alive, I call. End rhyme is used to make the stanza melodious. The examples of end rhyme in the poem are wall, call, hands, stands, meet, repeat. Heroic couplet. Heroic couplet is a pair of rhymed lines with iambic pentameter. The poem consists of 28 heroic couplets. For example, strangers like you, that pictured countenance, the depth and passion of its earnest glance. The poem is thus a very good example of a dramatic monologue. It is full of action, not merely a long soliloquy delivered by a character. It is dramatic, however small the compass may be, and it projects before us a vivid picture of all the emotions natural to a character. Thank you.